Wait, what?
Yeah.
You're on your lunch break. What do you do?
I do special operations for a security group.
Okay. And are you also on Pacific time as well?
I am on very specific Pacific time.
What happened to Debbie?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at World of Pets podcast. We love having you here on a weekly basis. And, we want our pets to live as long as possible, but we want that to be a good quality life. So to that end, we on this podcast explore all things about pets and animals so that we can have them around for a long time, but they are living a quality life. So again, thank you for joining us. Take it away, hosts.
Welcome back to World of Pets podcast. I'm still trying to figure out where I want my camera to be put. I'm sorry on short notes, but hey, Anthony, welcome back. Tonight's sponsor is debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. And tonight we have a very special guest, Courtney Brito. Am I saying that right? Brito?
It's pronounced Brito. It don't matter though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so
like
I thought we were
filter?
talking about Mexican food tonight. So but anyways, yeah, you're in for a fun ride. Anyways, so Courtney, this is a great story. I love this. You started volunteering at a zoo at age 14. How did you get into that, and what was your initial experience?
Yeah, so I had started high school recently, and one of my teachers knew that I loved animals a lot, and she said, "Hey, Courtney, there's this great opportunity that's at the zoo. You just got to fill out this application and get an interview with them, and if you pass, you get to volunteer there." And I was very excited, but I was like, I was shocked. I'm like really quiet, and I'm really keep to myself. So I was like, "Oh wow, thank you, I really appreciate that." So went on an interview, and that's how I ended up getting into the zoo.
Okay, Anthony.
Oh, what state was this zoo? Where was it located?
Yeah, so this is, if you've ever been to Pennsylvania, it is in Philadelphia. It is the Philadelphia Zoo.
I have been to Philadelphia. I played Eye of the Tiger while I ran up the art museum steps. Dun, 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 dun.
That's a lot of bravery. I can probably go up them, but actually no, I probably can't go up them. I could go downstairs.
I can fall down.
I grew up in the middle of New York State, so I've been to Philadelphia.
You said you haven't been to Philadelphia?
Yeah. So I grew up in the middle of New York State, up in Syracuse, New York. So I've been down to Philadelphia and all over Pennsylvania and New York and all over that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been. What about you, Peyton?
Me? Oh, that would be me. So I have been from Florida to Chicago to Texas to California, unfortunately. But yeah, I've been mostly across the country, and it's actually been an enjoyable time to, so we have a beautiful country. There's nothing you can't see when you're there. There's a lot of history and all that stuff. Well, let me go up with you another one. So when you were volunteering, what was your initial job? What was your first day like?
Yeah, so when all of the volunteers start, so they want to get us acquainted with the entire zoo. So they would have us working in various different areas. So one of the areas that I mainly worked at was the children's zoo. I also switched around to working in Birds of Australia, which was just helping with birds. And then there was also camps, which was dedicated to helping with children. There was also education, where if you've ever been to a zoo, you've seen someone sitting on a stand and they just educate you on something specific for an animal, maybe like a bone structure or something. That's also something I did. So I was in a lot of areas there. There was also one where it was a zoo on wheels, where people would hire us, and then we would just take a specific animal to that party and then just present it. It was fun.
What kind of animals would you take to a party?
So I guess like when someone orders it, it's typically for like a kids party. So they would not order, but they would ask for certain types of animals. Most of the time it would be exotic, something smaller that are easier to handle. When we went, there were quite a few there were like birds, and there were like chinchillas and a couple of other things.
All right, you said chinchillas, and I saw this in the notes before. That's why I thought we were having a Mexican dinner tonight, because it sounded like chimichangas, but chinchillas. Tell us about the chinchillas.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. Now I want a chimichanga. Are you going to make me a chimichanga first?
The chinchillas, they're cute, and they are super, super fluffy. Chinchillas, so we have a bunch of exotic animals that we take care of at the zoo, and chinchillas are just one of them. It was my first time seeing them, my first time handling them, and I had to learn the hard way to make sure you pay attention and don't mix up the chinchillas, because I accidentally put a chinchilla in another cage with another one, and they were not happy.
Oh,
Yeah. Luckily, nobody was, badly hurt or anything, but it was just a little of a feisty fight, and they had to separate them. But it was fine. But that was just one of the lessons I learned.
well, where would you go ahead?
I was just saying that's, I've heard of some pretty bad fights in my life. I worked inside a federal prison for almost a decade, but a chinchilla fight, like that sounds like more than I want to handle.
It was something, and the thing is, I didn't even know about it until later in the day when one of the workers was like, "Hey," and she's just trying to figure out how to break it to a 14-year-old, like, "Hey, so you're doing a great job. You're really awesome. One of the cages you cleaned out, you accidentally mixed up the chinchillas." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "Yeah, nobody died, but but just wanted to let you know so next time you could separate the chinchillas." But yeah, it was something.
Well, where would you find a chinchilla in the wild? That's what I want to know.
I'm not really sure where they found some of the chinchillas. I think a lot of the animals they got were ones that want to be able to survive in the wild, or they got injured too badly to the point where if they were to go outside, they may not survive for a long time. Maybe pet stores that they couldn't keep them because they were overcrowded. There are a couple of ways that they could have acquired them, but those are just some theories.
Okay. Is there a particular region in the world that they come from?
Chinchillas, I am not sure. I do know that chinchillas love to take dirt baths, so I'm pretty sure it's in an area with a lot of dirt. So maybe some deserty areas that they come from.
My kids love to take dirt baths.
It sounds like my backyard, but whatever.
So I live in the Sonoran Desert out here in Arizona. We get 300 days of sunshine a year, and it's not as pleasant as it sounds. So anyway, we actually got monsoons. We're in the middle of monsoon season. It was raining on Friday night, and my son decided to take a dirt bath. It was his job to jump in the mud puddles and, take a dirt bath. And so that was fun.
Wow.
So I should probably call my son Little Chinchilla.
He's going to be so confused.
What's the difference between what other animals did you get to work with? Did you get to work with any large animals?
Yeah. So I've worked with a ton of animals. So we pretty much most animals were like okay for us to handle with. The only ones we weren't able to handle were obviously the ones, the lions, the tigers, bears, stuff like that where you need a special. We didn't deal with those, but yeah, I've done with like a lot of the large animals I dealt with were like the sheep, the goats, the horses. I think there was a cow too as well. So mostly farm animals. Those were the biggest that we were able to handle.
That's so crazy because you're listing off a number of animals that are probably not native to Colorado. And when I see that, we have the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo here, and we have giraffes and tigers and bears and all that stuff. Did they have a big animal display there at the zoo you were volunteering at?
Yes, I think our zoo is one of the biggest zoos in the United States. So we have a ton, because I've gone to a couple of other zoos, and the Philadelphia Zoo that I was at, we had probably 5 times more than most of the zoos that I came across.
Wow.
It's a ton. Most of the things you could think of, we more than likely had.
Now, what's your favorite animal to work with there? And we won't tell the other animals what you said.
It's so difficult because I am a huge cat lover. So any cats I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, those were a no. So I had to go to second best, birds. So there were a ton of birds that we got to work with, and couldn't do too much handling with them. But birds of prey, hawks, eagles, all of those type of things. There was this bird that I loved working with. It was a burrowing owl. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're like little tiny owls. And when I got to go in there and I got to clean them, I would say, "Good morning, Sage." And I would just have the biggest smile on my face and just going over and say, "Hi, how's your day going?" I bet that bird hated my guts. just like, there's this girl again. How many times are you going to come over here? But working with the birds were one of my favorite things. And second, I'd probably say the rabbits. We did have a bunch of rabbits too that we were able to groom, to change, and all that stuff as well.
Well, speaking of the birds, by the way, I think it's very interesting because a lot of the species are not just regulated. How do you contain them, especially the birds of prey?
Yeah, so lots of times we have to, with certain birds, we have to kind of cover their their line of sight. So when we put them in a cage, we have to cover them with like a cover or something, because some birds, they get super stressed out or they get super aggressive at seeing other birds. So we make their enclosures a bit more dark, like it's completely dark, like they can't see anything on the outside. Like for those specific birds. Other birds like eagles, they're like, you can go visit one of the eagles because they're like in one of the cages. But certain birds, you have to just cover their line of sight.
Okay. Anthony?
That's interesting. So did your passion for animals and or working in the zoo carry into adulthood? Maybe not the zoo, but what do you do now?
Yeah, so it actually did. So I ended up going to school and I got a degree in animal behavior. And I went on to become a vet tech and a vet assistant. So I worked in animal hospitals for about a few years. That's what my focus started to switch to.
That's very cool because my daughter's a vet assistant at our Humane Society here.
Go figure. We have one here. We have a Humane Society here. It's huge.
Yeah, so I just recently adopted this guy. If he'll let me pick him up, just to show you. He's a 12-year-old. He was actually a long-haired dachshund.
Oh, hello.
But we're gonna do a follow-up series on him, but I don't want him to steal the show. So.
He's like, "Why? I want to steal the show."
Oh yeah, he'd steal the show. Yeah, that's Fluffy right there.
That is Fluffy.
He's like, "I'm fabulous. I should steal the show."
What is the biggest animal you've ever helped maintain?
I'd say probably a cow. That's probably the biggest one, but those were mostly just us go in, clean their enclosures, feed them, and stuff like that. It wasn't anything too serious. Again, we were only 14-year-olds, so there were only so much that they allowed us to do. So anything that was a little too much, they would have us work with like an adult or someone of a higher status. So that's what they would do. But I'd say a cow, and second, I'd say horse.
Horse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have a friend that actually raises Clydesdales. I'm trying to get her on here now too, but oh my dog, those are big freaking cows.
Yeah, there's some longhorns right there. Yep.
What? Where's the Cadillac?
Right? Exactly.
So I think the only other thing that I had to question. Okay, so when you're taking care of cows, right? You're not a farmer. You're not using them for food. You're just trying to. What was the point of having the cow in the zoo?
So our zoo had one of the areas I volunteered the most at was called the Children's Zoo. It's basically an area that's safe for the most part for kids to come around, and if they want to touch some of the pets. And a lot of the animals in there were farm animals, and cows were one of the animals. And sometimes, they would bring. Sometimes they would let the kids see the cow. So it was mostly for viewing purposes. Like they couldn't ride on the cow or anything. I think we had about maybe 2 cows when I last volunteered there. So it was mostly just for eyes for kids, because kids love looking at animals. So they love doing that. So that was one of the many animals we had in there.
That's pretty cool. Anthony, since we've had equine guests on, do you have any questions about the horses?
No, I'm assuming the horses were in like the petting zoo part, the part where the kids could go and hang out with the equine. And
Mhm. So
but you have
Mhm.
different types of equine. People don't realize like zebras are considered equine too, but you would have to
Yeah.
keep the domesticated horses separate from the zebras
Mhm.
because zebras are very hard to tame and keep in captivity. Extremely difficult.
Correct. Yes. We did have zebras, and the zebras were in the bigger zoo area, so it was outside of the children's zoo. So it was like one of the animals you would see roaming around, and I think it shared an enclosure with. I think it shared an enclosure with the giraffes at the time, but we only had the horses, and it was just one. It was a horse, and there was a donkey. Very random, but that's what we had.
Well, Anthony, make a joke about that.
I was trying to. My brain was turning. I'm not on it today.
Mine's spinning. Giraffe, a cow, and a horse go into a bar. Man, that sounds like quite the adventure. So where do you plan on going from here?
So
Home?
with
Oh,
sorry, go again. Go ahead.
He's asked where we plan on going from here. I said home.
I actually, so where I went from there is I ended up kind of not like retiring, but I kind of ended up expanding on what I do because I wanted something more. I wanted to grow and I wanted to do more. So that's when I ended up starting my business. And then my business, then it became my focus to help out veterinarians to help them, get more notice. So I still help out, but just in a different way.
So what is your business? What is it you do now?
So I help veterinarians to get more pet owners to their business online. So I help them primarily with their websites and with their business. Google business profiles is where I primarily help them with.
Okay. That's fantastic because we need more young entrepreneurs, by the way, and especially ones interested in animals. For sure, the animal industry is slightly struggling, but not as much as other industries. So let me ask you this. This is a question I brought up to my daughter because she works at the Humane Society, and she didn't have a direct answer for me. So what would it look like if you were to expand your business, use vets, use rescues, all that stuff? I'm giving you ideas here. You better be taking notes. Okay. What would your end game look like? Like, where would you take it from where you're at right now?
My passion is helping independently owned veterinarians. So the ones that don't really get noticed much, the ones that kind of have great care, they have so many great things going for them, but they're just not being seen by a lot. So those guys are my targets because I want to help them to get seen because they deserve it. They deserve to be seen just as much as bigger establishments or corporations. So I like to come in and step up and say, hey, there's another way for you to go about being competitive and still, keeping what you want to keep. So that's kind of my end goal, is to just help them out as best as I can, because I used to work in those fields. I used to work in those animal hospitals. So I know their struggles. I know their pains. I know what they hate. I know what they love. And, most of the vets I work with, they just really want the best care for pets. And honestly, that's enough for me to want to be like, okay, I want to help you get seen. I want other people to see just how amazing you guys are, if that makes sense.
Big vision. Anthony?
Amazing. That's incredible. I was just listening. Just my brain is not processing at a normal speed.
I know.
My processor is running out of memory and RAM and gigabytes, and it all hurts. Anyway, as they said, I'm Back to the Future. I need more gigawatts. Anyway, well, that's all incredible. So if there is a veterinarian that's interested, do you only help veterinarians here locally, or can you help anybody across the country? If so, how can I get in touch with you and have you help their business?
Yeah, so as long as they are local to their area, I can help them out. I work with veterinarians in the United States and Canada, so that's where I help out. And best way to reach out to me are various different ways. People can check out my LinkedIn. Just type in Courtney Brito, Brito, and you'll see me wearing scrubs. It'll be a picture of me wearing scrubs. And then there's my phone number, which is 218-517-5513. I also do, because I know it could be very, very scary to work with someone you don't really know, and it's just a lot. So I do offer free audits. So you don't have to make a commitment to anything unless you are 100% sure about what you're getting into. So I do offer those because I understand, I get it. I love transparency, so I like to give it back to others as well. And my email, which is just Courtney B, as in boy, at captivatingmarks, MARKS, agency.com.
Very good.
Awesome. So you started volunteering in the zoo at 14. So if there's a teenager out here listening and they're passionate about something, what would your advice be to them about getting started and what they're passionate about now?
I'd say get experience in the area that they're passionate about, because at least volunteer or work somewhere, because that'll let them know if it's something for them or not. Because I loved animals, but when I started working at the zoo, I realized I don't want to work with farm animals. I was like, I love them, but my passion, what I love, I love working with them, but I loved working with the exotics. That was my favorite part of working with the zoo, was working with the chinchillas. We got handled on many different types of them. So we even learned how to handle dwarf alligators. So that was pretty interesting. There was a ton, armadillos we dealt with as well. So there's a ton of things that we got to experience. But just experiencing, volunteering, learning about what you like and what you don't, because that's going to determine what you want to do. And then me working at the animal hospital, it really honed in, okay, I really love working with cats, dogs, and exotics. So that's kind of that's the best thing I would say. And don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to take risks, because that is the only way you will grow, is by getting outside of your comfort zone. It's okay if something doesn't work out, because at least you tried it.
Wow. You're very, very mature for a 14-year-old. Oh, wait.
Thank you.
I don't think she's 14 anymore. She might be 16.
Thanks so much. So I have a question for both of you. So what's your favorite animal? Have both of you been to the zoo before?
I've been. I have 3 kids, so I've been to our local zoo here in Tucson. I've been to different zoos growing up. I've never been to the Philadelphia Zoo. I've been to the city of Philadelphia, but never to the zoo. My favorite wild animal is probably the orca. There's so much that's interesting about the orcas.
It is
The
interesting.
more that I study them, the more that I watch videos and things on them, the more, oh, look, there's some dwarf alligators. The more interesting they become to me. As far as domesticated animals, I'm an equine nut. I love horses. I love studying all kinds of equine.
It's amazing.
That's a tough one for me because I grew up first with having all of my animals outside because I wasn't allowed to have a pet growing up. And so I had lizards and tadpoles and all that stuff, and that
That's
fascinated
cool.
me.
Yeah.
So, but I had to keep them outside, and then the tadpoles turned into frogs, and I'd get them from the local pond just across the street. And then I grew up a little bit. And my sister was allowed to have a parakeet, and I was like, "Why can't I have a dog?" It's like, right? So it was just this process for me. But I always loved animals. My first animal was a cat. He was a Siamese cat. His name was Dice. Why was his name Dice? Because every time my friends were playing a dice game, he'd come over and swipe them off the table.
Beautiful.
And then dachshunds were the only breed that I've owned for dogs. And Fluffy Poo is dachshund number 5, and I wouldn't trade him in for the world. He's a 12-year-old adopt, and just got him a month ago. So, but as far as going to the zoo, I'd say, oh man, one of my favorite things is, weirdly, I know it's weird, is the lizard area. I know it's weird.
It's not weird.
It is weird because they're not fluffy.
David,
They're not fluffy at all.
Have you ever heard about the Jesus lizard?
They like to be petted, but you can't pet them at the zoo. So, but I've had one adopt me down in Florida, and he didn't have a tail, and he'd come out on the porch every day when I was sitting out in the morning sun, and he'd just come out and say hi. And so I'm fascinated with the reptilian,
I love reptiles.
but I don't want to cuddle with them.
So apparently in South America, my daughter, my high schooler, came home a couple of weeks ago telling me about this lizard in South America that I guess it like skips or skims along the top of the water, and then it eats all the algae and the bugs and the stuff on the surface of the water. And so they call it the Jesus lizard because it literally looks like it's walking on top. Like, that's the name of it.
That is hilarious.
Like it's walking on top of the water.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that, dude. It's crazy.
So, well, thank you so much, Courtney, for joining us today. What is the name of your business that you currently have?
Yes, the name of my business is called Captivating Marks Agency.
Okay.
Perfect. We should put that in the description below. And with that, we will revisit our sponsor, debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. And with that, also, we love you all and God bless, but Anthony's going to carry us out with a very special message.
Well, as always, guys, we love you. You are valuable. You are heard, and we are here to listen. If you need anything, please reach out to us. As we always say, and we mean it, we'd rather have that 3 a.m. conversation with you than to see your name in the headlines the next morning. So please feel free to reach out to us, and whatever we can do to help you, we will. And if we can't, we will find somebody who can.
Amen. God bless.
Thank you. I'm glad that you joined us for At World of Pets podcast. We would like for you to take a look at what our sponsors have to offer, and that sponsor is debspets.com. You can access it through the QR code, or you can just go to the website. So thank you for joining us, and hope to see you again next week.